Hi, John.
Hey,
Let's see. Maybe that's
there we
better.
go.
Yeah. So did you know that NASA's planning to send astronauts to the moon?
I didn't know that NASA was. I knew that China was.
Oh, and I guess what do you think about that?
Well, if there's minerals to be bought there, obviously they're going to make it an economic endeavor. So, I mean, cash is king.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason they'd ever go back, there's nothing else there other than minerals. So, it doesn't do you any good to go there. I don't think they're going to try to make it a home. So, I think that's the only thing. And if there's government institutions or corporations that want to do it, they want to have the upper hand. I think that's as simple as you can make it. Kind of like, when you look at the old movies like Aliens and stuff like that, they're mining operations.
Oh, exactly. And they just happen to run across the aliens on the
Yeah,
way back.
on the way back, they're probably in for the minerals themselves. But, I think it can be a good thing. I mean, and plus you never know what you're going to find. I mean, they're gambling with their money, so I say have at it. It's not hurting anybody.
When you think about the future of humanity, say like 200 years out, do you still see us only on the Earth, or do you think we're like multiplanetary at that point and we're like spacefaring and going out to Mars is like taking a trip to Mount Everest or something?
Short distances, yes, possibly, but it's the cost at the end of the day. And unless they can do it for a lower cost, I just don't see it. We have a hard enough time just going outside our own atmosphere at this point, where only, the mega wealthy can actually afford to do it. And even when they do it, they only go up for a couple of minutes and then they return. So, like I said, unless there's money in it, I really don't see it. I mean, if you think about things like the gold rush, it was the same thing. Mm-hmm. There was no other reason for people to go out there other than to get the minerals and resell them.
Right.
So they'll put life and limb out there to actually do that type of stuff. But we got a good place here. Mm-hmm. And you would think as you think how long we've been on this planet and how old, the universe is, it doesn't seem to me like it would be feasible if there was any other life out there and they are doing that themselves. It would be the same type of situation. They're going to go wherever it's cost effective for them, basically. And you don't see anybody else doing it. I really don't see us doing it. I think it's a dream. It's a goal. It's nice to have. But just because you project that in the future doesn't mean it's going to happen. You look at the futurists from the 1950s and 60s, we were all going to be in flying cars and live in bubble, cities. And the only thing that's ever changed is technology, on a local level, if you will. But I don't see it getting that far. I think just we're limited by our own physical being, where it's just too hard for us to go out.
The human body wasn't meant for radiation.
Or the lack of gravity or anything on long term. It just isn't. And you can simulate things and all that. And then the human species is a social type group. We need others. You start locking up people in cages, like say a prison system,
right? And
they go crazy.
Absolutely.
And I think you would be stuck in space madness. I think that's what they call it.
We need to go in like hundreds of people at a time, just to create that social.
But even when you do that, if you look at battleships, right? Mm-hmm. So, they've done experiments where they've had, men and women on battleships, and what ends up happening is as they commingle, you have some couples that survive, they reproduce and all that, but a lot of them, because it ends up being more like a high school, because the emotions take over, and the emotions always get in the way. When you look at anything, even say things like the pandemic, okay?
Yeah.
You might have a threat out there, but it's not that threat you have to always worry about. It's the human reaction to it, how people respond. And that's kind of the unpredictable factor. And that's why we're flawed humans.
Well, I was thinking another example that people might relate to is a fire in a crowded place.
Yes.
That the fire may actually be very containable, and it's
Yeah.
the mass rush.
The panic.
The panic.
Yeah, the knee-jerk reaction to things. You know, people have a tendency, they see something, they want to respond, but sometimes they don't stop for a second, take a breather and go, okay, maybe we need to sit down and, you know, think this through real quick, and have a contingency game plan, which most governments usually have game plans, but that doesn't mean the people making the final decision on which game plan to do are making the right decisions.
They need to get buy-in too from the people that have to play the game, whenever they put the game plan in.
And everybody's got to be on board. And if you've got a handful of people that aren't on board, it can screw up anything. You know.
Yeah, I mean, just take driving for example. There was a whole bunch of people who wanted to drive on the left road, on the side of the road, all of a sudden that would really mess
or just
things
drunk,
up.
or even drunk driving. It just takes that one person to create chaos. And you know, if you've got a limited society out in space with limited resources, and you've got people in charge of certain things, you know, say medical, you have to. You're traveling, you know, years and years, you know, and generationals to get to these other places. Which is it doable? Yes. But when you start dealing with children and commingling and raising families, we have the ability here on Earth to walk away and go somewhere else and go to another country or see another culture. And you're stuck on a ship? No. All I see is chaos, and the only way they can ever maintain that is that it's more of a military control. And even that can have a coup. Look at the pirate ships of old. You know?
That's true. Yeah.
You know, people revolt, and all it takes is for one maniacal type person to be in charge.
And the people who are like that are most likely to want to be in charge. Too. You know, people who are kind of like more laid back don't necessarily want to be in charge.
Right,
You know?
but a lot of people don't want to be overly controlled either. I mean, you need, you know, people always laugh about like even like you know, they might say a leader, say like a president, you know, can be egotistical. But if you're going for president, you're already egotistical.
Absolutely, it's like a job, it's a requirement.
You have to be that to believe that you can do it. I mean, you have to believe in yourself, you know, and if you don't believe in yourself, a lot of those people are probably never going to get to that point.
Absolutely.
But you have to be willing to let those people control you to an extent, at least. And I just don't see, technology-wise, can we get there? Probably. Yeah. You know, do we have the want and the need? I can see that happening. But it's the humans. The humans, we're just a flawed species. We're smart. We create many wonderful things. But at the end of the day, the only way you can do it is by control. And some humans want to control and some people don't. And never the two shall meet.
If you could, would you take a trip to space?
To space? Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by space.
How about orbit for a couple of days?
You know, I would probably consider it, you know. I wouldn't go to Mars. There's no point. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there, you're stuck in a suit, you know, you're looking at rocks, kicking around dust, and then you're coming home, recycling your air, drinking your own pee. It doesn't sound like a fun vacation to me. I think it'd be cool to see the vastness of space, to see the world in one view. I think that would be an amazing situation. But outside of that, there's really no need. I mean, we have everything we need right here.
That's true.
You know, and you know, we have the technology. You know, we could carry on just the way we are perfectly for the rest of our lives. We could have done that 100 years ago. I mean, besides medicine. Medicine's always a nice technology to have.
It is.
But there's really not much more that we can get from space, I don't think. You know, I mean, you go to space, you've already got the lack of gravity. You can work within that realm. But I don't think any other planets are really going to offer us much of anything else. You know? We should go to the bottom of the oceans first.
And then we'd be protected from radiation a little bit more too.
Oh yeah. But you know.
And there's more ocean more oceans around the world than there is land surface. So
Exactly.
like 2/3.
Yeah, I think we only know something about 5% of the ocean floor. You know, we can do the sonar and stuff down there, but we really don't know what's all down there and what other creatures lie beneath the ocean that we've never discovered. You know, but yeah. As far as going to space, though, I look at it like the old. The futurists of the past, they're living in the dome, bubbles and flying cars. We're never going to have flying cars. You can't control the ones on the road.
Yeah, people like flying cars, but what we should be scared about is falling cars.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine what 9/11 would have looked like if everybody flew cars? You think it was bad enough with, airplanes and box trucks.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody would have been grounded. I think that's the thing, It's just that kind of stuff is never really going to happen because it's hard to control, and even if you could control it, it's such a wild card, And the only way you could do that is with AI technology. And I haven't really met very many people that actually want AI technology to rule the roost. So.
I know. I think it's going to be a subtle thing. You'll have people consulting it, and then there'll be more of a figurehead, and people will kind of do this little shell game where they're like, "Oh, it's not AI."
Well, they
it's
always
so-and-so."
they always bring it in. They always bring that kind of stuff in really slow, and it's they always tell you on the benefits of it, how this can help there, and it can. I'm not denying that at all. But as it creeps in, like your telephone, for instance, it's convenient. You can text, you can send messages, photos, videos. You got a plethora of, information at your fingertips. Only the people that make it and the governments control everything you see and all that, and how you get it and what you think about it. They already know. Look at China, Doesn't look to me like utopia.
Well,
and I think that's what you'd end up with, because the only way you'd have that in space, I think, is kind of the same thing. You'd have to have AI run it. And I'm not saying it's a 2001 situation, sorry, Dave, can't let you do that.
yeah.
However, I just think that you're only as good as the input you put in. And if the humans put in those types of things, it can work itself out, but you're gonna have a lot of speed bumps. That's all.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, John, I really appreciate your time. You've
No,
given me
no
a
problem.
lot to think about.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Enjoy. Have a good day.